Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rotary Thursday. Great to see everybody this morning. So it's a beautiful day. We have a great program for everybody. A couple of announcements. So let's go ahead and get started. So this morning, Dennis is going to lead us in the invocation. Dennis, I saw you on the Zoom side. If you don't mind leading us, please.
Okay. Please bow your heads. Father, we're thankful for this day that you've given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dennis. And on the in-person group, we'll go ahead and do the pledge. Please stand and face the flag. Okay. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay, so we'll start with guests and visiting Rotarians. And of course, we have our guests over here, our guest speaker, J.D. Underwood, which we're excited to hear. And he has a colleague, Michael, what's your last name? Knight. Michael Knight, who also works with the ATF. So we're glad to have our speakers here. Are there any other guests? It looks like it's all family on the in-person group, aside from our speakers. Any guests on the Zoom side? Okay. All Rotarians this morning. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and move over to announcements, brags, anything we want to share with our club members. I'll look around the room if anybody wants to share anything on the in-person group, if you don't mind coming up here, burning the calorie or two so everybody on the Zoom side can hear. And the Zoom side, feel free to share anything, any announcements, brags, anything you want to share with the club. No new grandbabies being born. I know Dennis is either in Florida already or getting ready to go to Florida to visit his grandbaby. And I know Fred is in Florida as well. We're missing part of our tech team this morning. Okay, it's going to be
Peter.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Tony. I have a late brag. I did find out that my daughter Hannah, her first semester in college, made the dean's list for honors college. So I'm very proud of her. She's a very smart kid.
Great news, Tony. I think you have very smart kids.
Peter, I had a brag.
Yes, sir.
This is Tim, and yesterday my daughter Abby and her fiance Will closed on their very first house, new homeowners.
Awesome. Great news. Any other announcements, brags, anything you want to share before we move into some club business and then to our program? Okay, if you have anything you want to share, please feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we'll just do a little bit of club business. It's JD has a lot to talk to us about, so we'll try to do this portion quick. So Madison Street Festival, I've sent out an email. If anybody wants to take the lead, if anybody's passionate about Madison Street Festival, it's a huge event that happens in our community. We had the opportunity to lead the teen area this year, which is a very visible area. Debbie's the chair of the Madison Street Festival. So if you're interested in leading that area, we have a couple people that wouldn't mind supporting you, but they're going to be away on vacation for that week. So Melissa Gibson and Jonathan Fraser wouldn't mind supporting, but they're both going to be on vacation. I think I'm going to be on vacation that week too. It's fall break, I believe. But if we have any club members, whether from the sunset or the sunrise, that are interested in assisting with that coordination, what you would do is start meeting with the Madison Street Festival team now, be part of that committee and the planning. So let me know if you're interested in that. Debbie needs a response from us pretty soon as they get into the planning on that. Strategic plan. So we had a board meeting on Tuesday. We had a strategic plan committee that put a great strategic plan together. Listen to the club, listen to what we thought we can do a little bit better. Tried to fill in the gaps on that plan, has action items and dates and things like that. So the board adopted that plan on Tuesday. So Chris is going to share that plan out with the club. Just because we adopted it doesn't mean that it's set in stone. It's a living document. We can tweak it. We can change it. Directionally, it's what we're going to use as a club to make sure we're moving in the right direction. So Chris will share that out. And if you have any comments, edits, feedback, please share it with Chris, and we'll make sure to incorporate that. But the committee did a fantastic job. Ron Klein's on that committee. Of course, Chris led it. Carrie Straub, and somebody's and John Allen, of course, did an awesome job on that strategic plan. So the other thing Chris wanted me to share, she's a little under the weather this morning, is she's our incoming president, so they're thinking about charities or fundraising. If you have any fundraising ideas, any parrots ideas, we are planning parrots, and that's another thing on my bullet list for this year. But if you have any ideas that you're just burning to share, Chris is all ears. So if you have any ideas about fundraising in general, as Chris plans her year next year for her Rotary year, or parrots, please start sharing those with Chris as she begins her planning. Another thing we discussed at the board meeting, sorry for all the business, was dues. So we've kept the quarterly dues at about $50 because we've been meeting infrequently in person. But now it seems like there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We're meeting more in person. We'll see when we can open that up a little bit further. So we're watching that. So for next quarter, dues will go from $50 to $100, and that'll cover our breakfast in the morning. The small breakfast sandwiches we've been having in the morning. The club has kind of been eating that fee because our general fund was healthy, but now we want to cover that a little bit more. Our normal dues is, of course, $150. That's when we have the full buffet breakfast. So we're going to raise it to $100 starting next quarter. Home Place Park Amphitheater. This is more of an FYI. We're continuing to move forward on the Home Place Park. So we're gonna sponsor that amphitheater to the tune of $50,000. It's gonna be the Rotary Amphitheater. We get to pay that over the next 3 years, so it's not gonna be a big hit to the club. We'll make 3 payments, or we can pay it all at once. It's up to us, but we have the ability to make 3 payments. And we're starting to meet with the city on that discussion now, but we're going to support it. There's going to be PR around it. The club is going to be mentioned. They're trying to raise $250,000. Ours is the largest donation they've received so far, or sponsorship. So they're going to try to leverage that to get the city excited and try to get the remaining funds to build that park. So we'll own that amphitheater. It'll be the Rotary Amphitheater, and we're asking for some things in return, just not the naming rights, but opportunities to have events there and things like that are at free or reduced costs. The Rail Yard Barbecue Cook-Off, I'm talking to Mal a minute here, but the Rail Yard Barbecue Cook-Off and Music Fest, that's Todd's event. Todd created a small LLC from Old Black Bear. He has a couple partners, and they're going to have this, I think I've mentioned it here before, kind of a whistle stop kind of event. It's exciting in Madison. This will be the first year they're hosting it. October 20th is going to be that date. There's going to be music, barbecue cook-off. It's going to be kind of a festival type thing right behind Old Black Bear. So Rotary, thanks to Todd's graciousness, Rotary is the beneficiary of those funds. So they'll work it. Rotary will be benefit from some of those proceeds. We're also working on the bar. So we'll do the liquor sales the way we used to do it at the barn. So I know Ron was a big part of that. I started talking to Carla yesterday about how do we plan for that, what licenses we need, and we'll get all the revenue from those liquor sales. So we'll not only participate on the foundation being a recipient of those funds, but we'll also work the bar and get the revenue from that. One favor I have to ask is if you have questions about the event that are specific to Rotary, please ask me about those. Todd was getting pinged through 20 different Rotarians at any given time because we all visit Old Black Bear, asking questions about the event. How is Rotary involved? So to try to minimize some of that on Todd, just direct those kinds of questions to me. Our club involvement, legalities, the foundation, accounting part of it, just flow that through me and we'll work it that way. That way Todd's not getting pinged from 70 Rotarians at a time. And then again, I mentioned this, but we are planning a Parrots on September 10th. So Friday, September 10th will be a Parrots of the Caribbean event. It's probably going to be at the baseball stadium. There'll be tweaks to it. We were trying to see if the cook-off, the rail yard cook-off, and Parrots could be one event that would cover the fundraising. But for this year, we'll have them as separate events. Not to say year 2 or year 3, Rail Yard Barbecue can't be the one big fundraiser we're doing, but for this year specifically, because it's the inaugural event, we're going to keep those two fundraisers separate, and we're going to work them that way. So Tom Florence is running on this. He's our chair this year for Parrots, so you might start getting some emails from Tom about different committees. And again, this is where we raise all our money to do all the good things we do, both in Madison and internationally. So that was a lot to say, and I probably took up more time than I care to take up. Are there any questions about those kinds of bullets or those things that I just mentioned before we move on? I hope everybody can hear me on the Zoom side. Any questions on the Zoom side? Okay, if you don't mind pulling up my slides, I'll quickly go through a couple of slides, and then we'll turn this over to JD. Okay. Let the Zoom side catch up, because there was a little pause there. And one last thing before I even get to these slides, I'd like to call a couple people up here. Well, really just one. Al, if you don't mind coming up here, that's right. The price is right. You're the winner. He showed up. Okay, so Mr. Al Sullivan, General Sullivan, has gotten to the point of he's provided $8,000 in support to the Paul Harris Foundation. He's now +7, so he has his Paul Harris +7 pin. That means he's contributed at least $8,000 to Paul Harris, and we want to thank Al for his generous donation. Thank you. And let's get a good picture from you. Thank you. And this is the cover. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm slowly coming down on my Paul Harris pins over here. Okay, now we'll, okay. And I can take it from here. I was going to show a video, but I won't show it because we know what happens when we try to show a video. So I'm going to skip that. But the district did put out their first PSA. And this is a Rotarian, and his name is Tommy Gogans. And he's from our Anniston Rotary Club. And the PSA was about the support that we give to the critical care transport. We had that big boil and bragging event, the district, and once a year. Last year it happened virtually, but all that money goes to the critical care unit. They take care of about 1,000 kids that are critically injured every year. And we support that this year. We supported to the tune of $500. And this Rotarian was just saying how it saved his son's life. His son had an asthma attack. The helicopter was able to pick him up and take him to where he needs to get, and he's alive today because of our Rotarian support to the critical care unit. So it's out there. It's on Facebook. If you follow 6660, I encourage you to just take a quick look at it. It's maybe 2 minutes long. A couple birthdays. Bob, if you're with us, a happy birthday. I think it's today, so you're enjoying your birthday with the Rotary Club. Thank you. Jean, happy birthday to you in a couple of days. Couple of anniversaries. Bill Colson will be with the club 1 year very soon. I think on Saturday 1 year, and Chief Bailey have been with the club 2 years. Both excellent Rotarians, especially Chief. I know he shows up for a lot of our volunteer opportunities. So thank you both for your participation in Rotary. And a couple of wedding anniversaries. Rajiv and Rashmi, 25 years coming up soon, and Fred and Diana, 37 years together on March 17th. So congratulations, everyone. And last but not least, of course, we have the ATF here today, just giving you a kind of brief look at what's going on. Next week, no meetings. It's spring break for the club. So no meeting next week. We'll get back together on the 25th. The Humane Society will be here. And then April 1st will be a club assembly where the directors will kind of give an update on what's been going on the last 6 months and what's going to happen in the remaining months in their leadership. So that's all for me. I'm going to call Chief Bailey up here so he can introduce our guest speakers. So both of you probably don't need this.
Morning, everybody. I'm not going to take up any time. I just wanted to introduce JD Underwood. I actually met JD 3 years ago. 3 years ago, met him because I was out running in the neighborhood, and I met him and his wife, my new neighbors, 3 years ago. So we got to talking, and it's been a great experience. he and his group, obviously, one of the 3-letter federal agencies, but we're not going to hold that against them or anything. So they actually do a tremendous amount of good in the country, across the whole country and internationally. But also not just on a federal standpoint, but from the state and locals. We've had our guys over at his facilities. I'm not going to go into what they can do and do, because he's going to give you all that. But come to find out, we passed each other in Virginia many years ago at different agencies and doing similar things. But he's got a lot of experience in law enforcement, both at a local level and a federal level. So I'll let him tell you all about that.
Thank you for having me. Like Chief said, JD Underwood, and I'm a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. ATF, all the fun, right? Alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Great speech this morning when he's talking about bullets. I know he's talking about bullet points, but, I'm thinking firearms and bullets, so that's good. And then liquor sales. I think I'm in the right spot this morning. So just want to talk to you about ATF's presence here in the Tennessee Valley, here in Huntsville, in the Madison area. We have a huge presence here, National Center for Explosives Training and Research. And I'm the special agent in charge of that facility. It's on the Redstone Arsenal. Main building is about 8,500 or 85,000 square feet of research, training, and laboratory space. And then we have 3 separate explosives ranges on the arsenal as well. So a lot of the booms that you hear from the arsenal are coming from our folks doing the training. So just a logo and a title slide. But our mission, we coordinate resource and training for all of ATF's arson and explosives programs throughout the country and internationally. We support our Office of Field Operations with all of our arson investigators, our certified explosive specialists, our certified explosive specialist bomb technicians, and our national response team that travels the country investigating large arson or fire and explosives incidents throughout the country. Think Nashville. We were on the ground in Nashville for the Christmas bombing within the hour. All of your major events. I was pretty fortunate. I've been at some pretty big events throughout my career. I was at the Pentagon on September 11th, the Virginia Tech shooting, the church fires in Alabama in 2006. Was there so as part of our national response team before I got promoted. Also managed from here our explosives and accelerant detection canine program. So our dog program. And I'll talk about each one of these programs as we go. So it's kind of 4 separate programs: explosives, our explosives enforcement and training, fire enforcement and training, our explosives research and development division, and then our canine division. I'll talk each one of them individually. So explosives enforcement is comprised of 2 separate branches. One is the explosives enforcement branch, and that's the bomb techs, our certified explosive specialists that work explosives cases out in the field. Nashville. If somebody is you inherit your grandfather's farm and you're cleaning out the barn and there's a whole bunch of dynamite in there, used old dynamite or blasting caps that needs to be disposed of. That's, our agents are the ones that do that disposal. And then our advanced ATF's kind of bifurcated. I'm going fast, but ATF is bifurcated. So we have a regulatory enforcement mission. So inspecting gun shops and explosives manufacturers, explosives dealers. So we have a group of investigators that go out and do those inspections. So we handle all the training for them, and then all of the criminal enforcement side. So we kind of split. And then there's a big one, explosive relief of disabilities. Most people don't realize that if you're a convicted felon, there are prohibitions from you possessing firearms. Well, there's also prohibitions from you possessing explosives. Back in the 90s, Congress took away all of our funding to do relief investigations for people to possess firearms. So if you're a convicted felon, you cannot petition the federal government to have your rights restored to possess firearms. However, you can petition the government back to have explosives. And so we manage that program from here as well. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense, but that's that's the law. So we run that from here. And then our advanced explosives training branch, we run several programs there. Advanced explosive disposal techniques, our homemade explosives program, post-blast investigation, Ravens Challenge, and then some other special programs. Ravens Challenge is a bomb squad interoperability exercise where we pair state and local bomb technicians with our military partners to work real world problems. We just got back from the first one of the year. We do 5 of them a year. We just got back from Tucson, Arizona, where we did our first one at the Pinal Air Park. And we put a huge emphasis on realism in training. So at Pinal, we rented 4 747s and we put bombs on the 747s for the participants, the bomb squads and our military partners to go onto the planes with their equipment, to use their equipment to disable and defuse those bombs. We also have other training lanes. We put a huge emphasis on the realism. Bombings of ATM machines in the United States are up over 400% in the past 2 years. You can YouTube, the internet is great for a lot of things, but it's also great for criminals as well. So you can go on YouTube and see how to bomb an ATM machine. And one of the best videos is someone did it with Legos. They built a ATM machine out of Legos and give you all the steps on how to bomb the ATM machine out of Legos. So through our partnerships here and our relationships that we've built in the community here, we've acquired almost 100 ATM machines from the Redstone Federal Credit Union. And we have put those ATM machines into service to teach bomb techs how to handle those explosives when they don't go off, or once they have gone off, how to process that ATM machine to collect the evidence in order to find the bad guy. Just one quick thing on our Certified Explosive Specialist program, and it's very similar to our CFI program. I can talk about both of them interchangeably. They're basically 2-year master's programs in their individual discipline. We're trying to create a whole investigator, someone that can go from the scene all the way to give that expert testimony in a courtroom. So those programs take 2 years for the individual investigator to complete. It's 6 master's classes from Oklahoma State University and the Missouri University of Science and Technology. It's about 500 hours of in-person classes taught by us here at NCEDR and across the country. The fire side, they have to work 100 documented fire scenes within that 2 years. And then both groups have to do a research project and write a publishable research paper in order to become certified. Both programs are in the process of getting accredited through ANSI and ISO at this point to lend credibility to our programs. But we're really putting the education and investing a lot of money into the education of our investigators, because it's no longer good enough in court. You know, the way everything's progressed, it's no longer good enough to court and say, well, I've been doing this 30 years. So if the fire started in that, I say the fire started in that corner, so that's why the fire started in that corner. You need to have that science and that education to back you up, to back up your expert opinion. We don't do the 100 explosive scenes because I don't think anybody wants to live in a country where we have 25 guys and gals a year going through a class and they have to do 100 documented explosive scenes. I don't think anybody wants to work in that environment in that country. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Kind of talked about them. Our certified explosive specialist, criminal use of explosives is a big thing of what we do. Accidental explosions, and then thefts of explosives, they still occur pretty regularly. We just had a theft of some ammonium nitrate fuel oil, some ANFO, from a mining facility in Kansas, and we were able to make that case. Actually, they made that case. It was stolen in February, made it last night, recovered all the explosives, and got the bad guy in jail. So that's a big win. Disposal operations, kind of like I talked about with you inherit grandpa's farm and you go clean out the barn and you find explosives there. We do those disposal operations, and then we conduct training. for military, state, and local agencies. We do have 100. ATF is of the 4 DOJ criminal law enforcement entities, the FBI, DEA, the Marshal Service, and us. We are the smallest. We only have 2,500 agents nationwide. And so about 200 of those are dedicated to that explosives mission. Our Explosives Research and Development Division, it's a fairly small division here, but we're focused on the safe handling, safe use, safe application of explosives. We do some support for our criminal investigations, but other research and development we do are research projects for other entities, such as the National Counterterrorism Center, the Joint Improvised Explosive Defeat Organization, other military partners, where we're going to do research into the safe application and the safe storage and safe disposal of explosives. One of the things that we're really heavy on right now is doing quantitative risk assessment on the storage of explosives. So it's kind of, it's going to cost a lot of money. So we're trying to get it funded through our funding sources. But the regulations in the law on the storage of explosives, it's a table in the law that says if I have 10 pounds of explosives in this type magazine, I have to be 1,000 feet away from any occupied structure. Very simple table. That table was created in 1914 from nitroglycerin-based explosions between 1865 and 1910. When was the last time it was updated? 1914, right? So if you're saying that at 999 feet, I'm not safe, and at 1,001 feet, I am safe, that's not very realistic. And it's all nitroglycerin-based dynamite explosions from back, in the 1800s. So the majority of explosives used in the United States today, over 95%, are blasting agents, which are not as sensitive as nitroglycerin-based explosives. So as we become, more of an urban society and we don't have as much land around to store explosives to get that 1,000 feet, or if you have 1,000 pounds of explosives, you may need 20,000 feet storage away from other buildings. We're trying to shrink that footprint for industry. And we can do that with a quantitative risk assessment model. But it has to be modeled and it has to cost money. It costs a lot of money, and it's going to require congressional approval because it's in the law. But we're working towards that. It's one of our big initiatives that we're working towards to get that done. Our Fire Investigation and Arson Enforcement Division, it coordinates all of our arson enforcement and our fire enforcement. Arson and fire is very tricky because it's one of the only crimes that you have to investigate it to determine if a crime even existed. You have to go in and investigate that fire to determine that it was an arson before you do your criminal investigation. So we have about 120 certified fire investigators and certified fire investigator candidates throughout the country. That's the 2-year master's program as well. They do the 100 fires. They do their projects. Their projects can be in something as simple as which soap to decontaminate your boots with when you go from fire scene to fire scene, because you don't want to take something from one fire scene and take it into another. So what soap or what material is the best to clean your boots and your equipment with when you go from one to the other? Or it can be something like a carbon monoxide explosion. So when your house is burning, it's producing carbon monoxide as a byproduct of combustion. When it reaches a certain concentration of the air, that carbon monoxide becomes explosive. So the research projects run the gamut between the two of those. We're getting ready to do another one on decontamination of all of our clothing post-fire scene. We've been involved in a study with Johns Hopkins University for about 20 years now because our certified fire investigators have about a 3 times higher risk for bladder cancer than the rest of the population. So we get our certified fire investigators get their blood taken twice a year to participate in that study with Johns Hopkins. Our CFIs and our CESs are all part of our national response team that travel the country. I kind of talked about that. The travel the country, respond to major fire and explosive incidents within 24 hours anywhere in the United States. Um, the Austin bombings, the Nashville bombing. The last year was a big year with the civil unrest throughout the country. We went and investigated fire incidents involved in the civil unrest. The Bonhomme Richard fire, the Navy ship fire that burned in the San Diego shipyard. We investigated that fire as well. That's why our damage estimate there for fiscal year 20 is over $2.5 billion, is over the civil unrest fires and the Bonhomme Richard. The Bonhomme Richard's not really counted in that because they're going to scrap that ship. That's about a $9 billion loss there. But they responded 16 times last year, spent about 140 days on scene, did 200 fire scene examinations, and then the over 2.5 billion. So when that national response team responds, it's not just our certified fire investigators and our certified explosive specialists. We take fire protection engineers, electrical engineers, chemists to create that whole package to investigate that incident, whether it's a fire or an explosion. And as a result of that combined effort, our arrest rate for incendiary fires, because we first have to determine whether it's a crime. So if we determine it is an arson, our arrest rate for incendiary fires is about 78%. And the national average for arson fires is about 20% arrest rate on the national level. So it's really, and it's, all this is, we work this in conjunction. If there was a big fire in Madison tomorrow, and Chief Bailey requested us, we would have the team here within, well, we got a lot of members here, so they'd be here within, be on the scene pretty quick. But we're going to work in conjunction with them. We're not going to take anything over. They're going to be integrated right with our folks and work that scene together the whole time. And it's one report at the end. You're not going to rely on Madison to do a report and us to do a report. It's one consensus report at the end. Most of those reports for those fire scene examinations are about 200 pages long that document everything from where the fire started to building construction. Weather plays a big role in a fire investigation as well. Our National Canine Division, everybody loves the puppies. I keep saying every one of the bosses throughout the country for ATF, they want more dogs because they are such a useful tool. I keep saying that when an agent graduates from the academy, we need to give them their Glock for their hip, their rifle, their body cam now, and then let's give them a puppy as well because everybody wants them. Our dogs we use laboratory retrievers, and they're a food reward dog. So it's not a lot of your patrol dogs, your narcotics dogs are rewarded with a toy. I mean, they don't know what they're finding. They're just looking for that odor and they're looking to play. Well, ours work to eat. A lab, and I didn't know this till I started supervising this division. Labs don't have the gene that tells them when they're full. So they could literally, if they had an unlimited food supply, they would eat themselves to death. So we can hide, the handlers have to hide explosives for their dogs to find all day, or not all day, but a couple times a day, so that they can train their dogs so that they know when to eat. Now, a lab is a lab. If there's a steak sitting on the table or you leave your biscuit out, that dog's going to go for it. But he's also always looking for those odors as well. So he finds the odor, you give him a little bit of kibble, you go on to the next one. Our dogs are also unique in that we have trained our dogs to work off lead. So if say there's a bomb threat here in the YMCA, we can have the handler at the front, and as long as he's within eyesight of that dog can run the entire length of the building. He could go into the equipment room and the handler could stay at the doors and have the dog clear that entire room in probably about 2 minutes, instead of having him on the lead and walking him around the entire room. our dogs, they're a passive alert dog. So when they smell that odor, they sit and point their nose at the odor that they're looking for. And then obviously if the dog alerts, then things get ramped up and you get your bomb squad in there, you get your certified explosive specialist in there to handle that issue. Same thing with the accelerant dogs, or as NFPA now is calling them, ignitable liquid detection canines. So they will go into a fire scene and they will smell gasoline, kerosene. There's about 30 different ignitable liquids that they can find. The explosive dogs are about 85 different odor combinations that they can find as well. One of the uses that we've found for our dogs now that we're using the dogs around the country specifically for in our ATF's violent crime mission. So your gunpowder in your shell casing, in your spent shell casing after a gun has been fired, when they're ejected, our dogs are finding them throughout the country. So we're using the dogs on shooting scenes where to help the local police officers process shooting scenes, because that odor in a spent shell casing is so minute, they find those odors very quickly. So they're not just looking for the big tractor trailer load of explosives. They can find down to trace odors. They've even actually detected on someone's hand after they've shot a gun. They've detected the gunshot residue on someone's hand. So I know I kind of blew through that, kind of jumped around a little bit, but I think I'm on my time mark here. Are there any questions? I think I do really well. Good answer questions. Yes, sir. So obviously my two favorite parts of the job, right? But it's a very, very, very small mission for ATF anymore. When I was an agent in Southwest Virginia, I'm pretty fortunate in my career that I've done prosecuted cases in all four letters: alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. The alcohol mission is rooted back into the 30s with moonshine and prohibition. ATF traces our roots all the way back to the 1700s for the taxes on alcohol. Elliot Ness, we have big tributes to Elliot Ness in our headquarters, and go back to prohibition agents when we were part of the Treasury. And the first gun laws, the National Firearms Act of 1934, was born out of prohibition, with the Tommy guns and short barrel shotguns used in criminal activity to protect the illicit liquor trade back in the 30s. And then we've progressed as a bureau since then. There's very little alcohol work anymore. The show Moonshiners has kind of brought that back into the forefront. I know Tim and Tickle personally from working in Southwest Virginia. They were on the first season of Moonshiners. But it's the money to be made in illicit liquor is not what it was in the past. I equate it to meth. I've probably submitted 150 samples of moonshine to the laboratories in my career, and every one of them had lead in there about 20 times greater than the EPA harmful level on the moonshine. So that was the last case I did before I promoted, was a moonshine case. My guy, he bought 330,000 pounds of sugar in 14 months. Sugar is a main component of liquor, of illicitly made liquor. And he went to prison for about 4 years, and I seized about $2.5 million from him. Tobacco is the same. I did a tobacco case when I was an agent in Roanoke, Virginia as well. Taxes at the time on a pack of cigarettes in the Commonwealth of Virginia were 2.5 cents per pack. They were 87 cents in California. So you would have tractor trailer drivers stop at truck stops along the interstate in Virginia and buy as many cigarettes as they could, put them on a tractor trailer, and take them to California. We ended up spinning up a case on a group of Armenians from Glendale, California. And we started small at about $16,000 worth of cigarettes a load. and ended up spinning that into $1 million in cigarettes twice a month. $1 million trivia, $1 million in hundreds fits in a standard backpack. Just kind of crazy, but we would do $1 million deals twice a month and take them, they would take them to California where they had smoke shops where they would distribute them to the smoke shops. Then you get into other scams where they would actually buy tax stamps for them, but they would have their stamp machine only put a quarter of a stamp on each one. So, oh, my machine's off. So you have so many scams, and it's all about making money. But it's really a small portion of what we do as well. ATF's primarily focused on our violent crime mission, and that's firearms. Arson is inherently a violent crime, as is any criminal use of explosives. So, formed as an independent bureau in 1971. And it's interesting, with 2,500 agents in 1971, and we're still at 2,500 agents today. Not to get politicized or anything else, but the world's largest lobby, the NRA, is diametrically opposed to what we do. Regulating the gun industry, regulating the firearms industry. Which, I mean, hey, I'm an NRA member. My father's an NRA member, but you have the world's largest lobby completely against, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to regulate. So it's a political hot button. I mean, you can't talk to anybody about firearms rights and rights to possess a firearm with the opinions going, skyrockets on each side. So yes, sir. Trafficking of firearms is a huge issue. Taking them from states where the laws are generally not as strict and taking them to states where they are. They used to call Interstate 95 from Florida to New York the Iron Pipeline, transporting guns. I get alerts from all the, significant cases across the country. They did one yesterday where they picked off a kid from off a train, Amtrak train in Philadelphia, that he'd just been in North Carolina, where he picked up, he had 15 handguns in a backpack. So trafficking firearms from there. It's a primary focus of what we do is in the firearms trafficking. Explosives trafficking. Luckily, we don't have that much of that because it's such. There are a lot more rules on the storage of explosives than there are on the storage of firearms. Way firearms laws are written, we can only inspect a firearms dealer one time a year, the way the laws are. Even if we suspect him of aiding traffickers, we're only allowed to inspect him once a year. The explosives, we can go in there several times a year if we need to. Explosives are required to be kept in certain explosives magazines and the law dictates how thick the walls of the magazines have to be, the locks that have to be on there, the locks have to be hooded. You have to do daily inventories of your explosives. There are no restrictions on any of that for firearms dealers. So we do not see the issue with the explosives trafficking that we do on the firearms. I like to say, and it's kind of a brag point that you had earlier. When is the last time that you heard of a bombing in the United States, a fatal bombing in the United States that wasn't solved? I can't think of any. There's one that somebody told me about, but it's kind of under debate because we think that the individual was experimenting with explosives and blew himself up, but there's some other indications that it may have been somebody else there. So there's some debate on that one, but I can't remember, certainly not in my career, where there's been a fatal bombing in the United States that's not been solved. So I know I have 15 seconds. So, any other questions? I can talk about this stuff all day. I love it. So
Thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for keeping us safe and being in town and everything you do. Thank you. Okay, anything else before we close? Anything from the Zoom side before we close with a four-way test? All right. One thing I forgot to mention is we are planning an annual dinner for the end of June. So that'll be live. So we're kind of keeping our hopes up that things continue moving in the right direction. Erica's already working on that. So we are planning annual meeting or annual dinner live this year. So, okay, with that, let's close with the four-way test. Please stand. Of the things we think, say, or do first,
Is it true?
second,
Is it fair?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.